Elena Ward had always been invisible on the base. A quiet logistics clerk who moved from warehouse to paperwork to inventory checks without drawing attention. She wasn't a soldier or a fighter, just a disciplined woman who kept things running behind the scenes. So when she stumbled into something unusual during a late-night supply run, no one expected her to speak up. And even fewer expected her to be right. That night the base was unusually silent. Mist rolling out from the bay as she wheeled a crate toward the loading zone. That's when she saw them, 3 unmarked trucks parked in a shadowed corner. Engines rumbling low, men in mismatched gear standing guard. Their uniforms weren't standard issue, their patches didn't match any division she knew. Their movements were sharp, trained, but oddly secretive. And when one of them noticed her watching, he covered a crate faster than she could blink. A crate marked with classified tags. She wasn't cleared to see her chest tightened. But she remembered every detail, every face, every vehicle number. She hurried back inside and reported what she saw, hoping someone would react with urgency. But instead, her supervisor chuckled, waved her off, and said she probably misread a routine delivery. By the next morning, whispers followed her through the hallways. Murmurs that she was imagining things, that she made up some story to feel important. Voices she once trusted turning cold. Elena tried again. Sitting across from 2 senior officers in a cramped room, smelling of old coffee and dusty paperwork, she explained the illegal patches, the unmarked trucks, the tension in the air. She listed the serial numbers she memorized, the exact route the trucks took toward the restricted sector. But all she received were raised brows and dismissive sighs. They told her she was tired, stressed, overthinking. They suggested she withdraw the report before it harmed her record. The humiliation hit deeper than the disbelief. Yet beneath the embarrassment was something heavier, something unsettling, the quick glance the officers exchanged before ending the meeting. A glance that wasn't amused, but worried, almost fearful. And in that moment, Elena felt a shift, realizing she hadn't imagined anything. She had witnessed something she was never meant to see. And now the base was treating her like a problem they needed to silence. Not protect. She walked out with trembling hands, but a steady gaze, knowing the truth wouldn't stay buried forever. Even if she had to stand alone for now, after Elena filed her report. The base changed around her in a way she felt more than saw. Conversations that once paused out of respect, now paused out of suspicion. Soldiers who used to greet her with easy smiles now turned away as she passed. And every step she took down the hallway felt heavier, as if the walls themselves were whispering the same cruel idea. She made it up. Her supervisors called her in repeatedly, each time with softer voices but sharper intentions. They said she misunderstood the situation, said she was misinterpreting harmless activity, said withdrawing the report would be best for her future, and each suggestion wrapped itself like a rope tightening around her confidence. Yet Elena held her ground, even as doubt tried to climb into her mind. But then the strange things began. Her locker was found open, though she never left it unlocked. Her inventory schedule was suddenly changed to midnight shifts, and more than once she noticed 2 men she didn't recognize standing near the exit when she left the warehouse. Their eyes watching too closely, too intentionally. The fear she tried to ignore slowly settling deeper, turning into a silent warning inside her chest. One evening, she returned to her small apartment and sensed something wrong before she turned on the light. An envelope lay on the floor, slipped under her door, with no name and no stamp. Inside was a single line written in thick black ink: "Stop asking questions." The message shook her more than the ridicule ever did. Because this wasn't mockery now, this was a threat. A warning meant to corner her into silence. And for the first time she realized she wasn't just dealing with disbelief. She was stepping into something dangerous, her hands trembling. She used the encrypted contact her brother once gave her, typing every detail she knew, sending everything before fear could stop her. And hours later his reply came, short and urgent, "Do not move." The next morning began like any other. Gray light stretching across the base, tired footsteps echoing through the corridors. But beneath the routine buzz was a strange tension. Something quiet yet electric, the kind of shift people feel before they understand it. And Elena sensed it in her bones as soon as she stepped outside her quarters. She didn't have to wait long to see why a heavy thump rattled the ground as a transport helicopter descended toward the landing pad. Not scheduled, not announced, and definitely not ordinary. Its matte black exterior was a signature no one on the base could mistake. These were not regular officers. These were SEALs, the elite few who only arrived when something serious had cracked open. As the aircraft's rotors slowed, a unit of operators stepped out in perfect formation. Their gear precise, their expressions unreadable. The insignia on their shoulders sharp enough to silence every nearby whisper. Soldiers around the base froze mid-step. Officers rushed out confused and panicked. And Elena felt her heartbeat stumble, because something told her this wasn't coincidence. The SEALs didn't waste time. They marched straight past command staff, pushing through layers of security like walking through air, their presence forcing the entire base to hold its breath. Elena was in the operations building, being questioned again, when the door burst open and Commander Cole Granger stepped inside. His voice cutting the room clean. "We're here for the whistleblower," he said without hesitation. And the officers interrogating Elena instantly stiffened. Fear creeping across their faces, real fear. The kind that comes only when truth is no longer controllable. The SEAL intel specialists moved fast, accessing restricted logs, convoy records, and encrypted satellite data, their fingers flying over terminals, ignoring every protest from base officials. Within minutes they uncovered hidden files, irregular entries, altered timestamps, and a trail that matched Elena's story detail by detail. Unmarked trucks she saw weren't misidentified or imaginary. They were tied to an ongoing illegal smuggling network the SEALs had been tracking for months. And without Elena's report, the trail would have gone cold. She hadn't imagined danger. She had stumbled right into the center of it. And now the SEALs had arrived, because her truth was the breakthrough they'd been hunting all along. The atmosphere on the base shifted the moment the SEALs began their sweep, moving through hallways with quiet precision, their presence alone enough to make seasoned officers step aside. Elena watched from the operations room doorway as they carried out searches with deliberate, controlled urgency, checking restricted storage, reviewing digital logs, and comparing every detail she had reported. And with each minute, the truth she had clung to began rising from the shadows. It didn't take long for the SEAL intel techs to uncover the tampered vehicle logs, entries erased and rewritten with shaky timestamps, supply crates rerouted through impossible locations, and falsified paperwork clearly designed to paint Elena as careless or confused. These weren't simple mistakes, but deliberate actions meant to bury evidence and silence her voice. And every uncovered detail caused the officers who mocked her earlier to shift uncomfortably, eyes darting toward exits that suddenly felt far away when Commander Cole Granger returned to the room where Elena waited. He wasn't just carrying files, he carried confirmation. He placed a classified folder in front of her, his expression steady but respectful, and told her calmly, "You saw it exactly right. You were the only one telling the truth." The words struck her harder than any insult she endured. Because they weren't just validation, they were vindication. Her supervisors tried to defend themselves, stumbling over excuses, insisting she misunderstood, claiming the logs were corrupted or the system malfunctioned. But the SEALs cut them off with a single look, the kind that reminded everyone in the room who truly held authority. And then the real weight of the revelation dropped. The convoy Elena reported was directly connected to a multi-state smuggling ring the SEALs had been tracking for months. An operation so well hidden that even intelligence struggled to get Lead Zelena's report had been the missing piece when one of the senior officers, the loudest critic of her story, attempted to leave the building. SEAL operatives intercepted him at the gate. Placing him in restraints, several others followed, detained under suspicion of aiding the rogue operation. The entire base watched in stunned silence as the truth Elena carried alone finally exploded into the open. She hadn't just been right. She had uncovered something that reached far beyond anything she imagined. And now everyone saw it, everyone understood it. And no one could ever call her a liar again by the time the sun dipped behind the barracks. The base felt like a different world, the same concrete, the same fences, the same echo of boots on pavement, yet something invisible had shifted. Something heavier and quieter, as if the entire base was holding its breath. Realizing the truth they ignored had been standing among them all along, Elena walked through the courtyard slowly. Not out of weakness, but because every step felt unreal. Soldiers who had looked through her for days now stepped aside respectfully, some lowering their heads, others unable to meet her eyes at all. The same mouths that had whispered liar now whispered apologies that caught in their throats. And though she didn't seek their approval, she felt the weight of their changed hearts settle around her like a soft armor. Commander Granger approached her outside the operations building, the last glow of daylight cutting across his uniform. He stopped in front of her with the kind of stillness only men who've seen war carry. And he told her plainly that her bravery saved more than equipment. It saved lives. He handed her a sealed acknowledgement, not for public ceremony, but for classified records. A document that would quietly mark her as the civilian whose courage cracked open a network no one else had been able to expose. Elena didn't know what to say. So she simply nodded, her throat tight, her hands loosely folded as the reality sank deeper. She had not been trained for conflict, had no combat medals or rank to shield her. Yet she had stood firmer than those who outranked her. And that truth settled in her chest with a warmth she hadn't felt in days. Later that evening, her brother arrived, rushing from out of state the moment he heard what happened. He wrapped her in a hug that felt like home, whispering that she had shown more courage than many soldiers he'd worked with. And for the first time since this all began, Elena allowed herself to breathe fully, the fear finally melting away as the arrested officers were transported out of the base. Flashing lights painting long shadows across the ground. Elena stood quietly at the edge of the walkway, watching the convoy disappear into the night. She hadn't asked for recognition, hadn't asked to be believed. All she wanted was the truth to matter, and now, because she refused to bend, it finally did. And the entire base knew her name for the right reason at last.